Howdy, Internet! We've got a problem. Algorithms are radicalizing people, and if you don't believe me, watch this. I opened a tab in incognito mode and I went to YouTube. I typed into the search bar, "I'm sad and I want to change my life," and this is what I was shown.
What's the consequence? You're not motivated, you don't want to get out of bed in the morning, you're starting to get depressed, you're getting bitter, you're getting resentful, you're getting cynical, you're amotivated at work, you're not doing a very good job, and you're starting to shrink. You're not going to talk God out of making the world suffer, that's for sure.
But just the way that it made me feel that, hey, I'm older than her, I'm potentially more successful, but I am intimidated by this 18-year-old girl.
And they learn that maybe they can disrespect you, maybe they can cheat on you, but you're not going to go anywhere because she knows you can't do any better looks-wise.
She could be looking for attention or validation, or maybe the guy follows her on social media and she's posting it so that he sees it.
Being masculine is seen as something negative.
How about we don't celebrate pride? Pride's a cardinal sin.
Within 11 clicks, I found myself here.
Well, welcome back. You may have noticed it's Pride Month. It's pretty hard to ignore it.
But I am irritated, and a lot of American conservatives agree with me.
Where's my straight flag?
Why am I
Inside of a radical algorithm full of bigotry, misogyny, and homophobia. Now, if you type in, "I want to learn how to make scrambled eggs," you'll get radicalized, but in a different way.
Hey everyone, it's Kenji. I am at home and I'm going to make some scrambled eggs.
You won't be storming the Capitol anytime soon, but you might have guests storming your kitchen to get some of the tasty food you've whipped up with your newly acquired culinary skills. So why is it that it seems like sad people get sucked into incel breeding rabbit holes? According to Max Fisher, the author of The Chaos Machine, social platforms slowly radicalize people because it keeps them engaged longer.
These systems are really effective at gradually nudging people into ideas. And in fact, that's their favorite.
That's a key point.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's their favorite way to nudge people in, because if they just show you an extremist video, maybe you watch for 20 minutes. But if they show you 10 videos that gradually bring you up to the idea, then maybe you're watching for 4 hours. And that's all they want. They just want you watching more. That's it.
And this is why there is a growing population of what I call cult-fluencers. A cult-fluencer is a term I came up with to describe influencers and creators who have built an audience and sustain that audience by using the same tactics as cult leaders. And in my opinion, most of these cult-fluencers are completely oblivious to their cult-like status and their cult-like behaviors. These influencers are just responding to the algorithm, the likes that they receive, YouTube studio metrics, and general overall engagement metrics. I've broken this video into 4 chapters to help hopefully understand how cult-fluencers are made, and by the end, you'll hopefully be able to talk to that one weird aunt or uncle at your next family gathering with just a little more empathy, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get them to think critically, even if it's just for a second. Let's jump into it. How cults work, and a story about Christian and Diane. Just a story about Christian and Diane, 2 kids living in the heartland. Sorry, stupid joke, I'm from Indiana. Long live the cougar, John Mellencamp, the coup.
Oh yeah, life goes on.
Christian and Diane were both young, lost, confused, and angry at the world when they were recruited by their respective cults.
My journey to coming here today started in 1974. That's me with the funny gloves. I was 17 and going on a peace walk. What I didn't know, though, was most of those people standing there with me were Moonies.
A Moonie is a nickname given to people who are a part of the Unification Church.
I had come to believe that the second coming of Christ had occurred, that it was Sun Myung Moon, and that I had been specially chosen and prepared by God to be his disciple.
Christian, he was only 14 when he was standing alone in an alley, smoking a joint, when he was approached by an older skinhead and then recruited into the neo-Nazi movement.
Then he put his hand on my shoulder and he looked me in the eyes and he said, "That's what the communists and the Jews want you to do to keep you docile."
I felt marginalized and powerless and weak and unheard. And all I wanted was to be powerful when I felt the most powerless.
Diane said that she fell so deeply into the ideological trap of the cult that she can now empathize with and even understand how someone can become so radicalized that they commit acts of violence, suicide bombings, and participate in group ritualistic suicide, where unfortunately people force their children to also drink the Kool-Aid.
The thing I had to admit to myself with great repulsion was that I get it. I understand how this could happen. I understand how someone's brain, how someone's mind can come to the place where it makes sense. In fact, it would be wrong when your brain is working like that, not to try to save the world through genocide.
Cults and their leaders are really good at offering very simple solutions to complex ideas.
Clean up your room.
These easy ideas to complex questions are very appealing when you are emotionally vulnerable.
According to the BBC, there was an uptick in new cults and cult members during 2020. Something about the global pandemic, mass confusion, and the spreading of misinformation from literally everyone in every corner of the internet had people scared and confused.
By injection.
Lysol quickly issuing a statement. We must be clear that under no circumstance should our disinfectant products be administered into the human body.
No, I was asking a question sarcastically to reporters like you, just to see what would happen.
All right, this is getting serious. Oh my goodness.
This made a larger than normal size of the global population susceptible to contracting what is called and known as a mimetic infection.
For those of you who aren't familiar with mimetics, a meme has been defined as an idea that replicates in the human brain and moves from brain to brain like a virus.
And just like infections of the body, if you have a weakened immune system, you're more at risk for getting sick. Since a mimetic infection is a mind disease, you become more susceptible to being infected if you are scared, uncertain, mad, or emotionally compromised in any way. The operating system for a mimetic infection works by implementing something called circular logic. For Diane, it was
Moon is one with God. God is going to fix all the problems in the world. All I have to do is humbly follow, because God is going to stop war and hunger, all these things I wanted to do. All I have to do is humbly follow, because after all, God's the Messiah.
For Christian, it was, you're mad and you don't have what you want in your life, your parents won't spend time with you, well, get rid of the Jews. The problem is the Jews. No Jews, no more problems.
I started to watch very closely as the leaders of this organization would target vulnerable young people who felt marginalized and then draw them in with promises of paradise.
Christian, he fell for this logical fallacy so hard that he became the leader of the neo-Nazi skinhead movement, and he helped spread the message of hate by playing punk songs that were similar to what were used in the movie American History X.
And when I started to speak, people paid attention.
The skinhead movement or the white power movement.
And I went from somebody who was ultimately powerless to somebody who felt extreme power. And the violence, and the anger, and the racism, and the anti-Semitism, it focused my sense of purpose. And because of that, I was able to eventually lead America's largest and most infamous neo-Nazi skinhead group.
Years old, director of the Illinois chapter of Chris.
This guy is one of the reasons you can't seem to stop doom scrolling. His name is BJ Fogg, an American social scientist, a research associate, and adjunct professor at Stanford University. He is also the founder and director of the Stanford Behavior Design Lab, formerly known as the Persuasive Technology Lab.
For a behavior to happen, three things have to come together at once. And so I gave it a name. I call it the Fogg Behavior Model. Trigger. You have to have the ability to do it, and you have to have the motivation to do it. Those three things have to happen at the exact same moment. And if any one of those things is missing, it won't happen.
He has several famous students whom he has taught or mentored. One of them is Tristan Harris, the tech whistleblower who was featured prominently in the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma.
I was a design ethicist at Google, where I studied how do you ethically steer people's thoughts.
Tristan mentions the Persuasive Technology Lab in his TED Talk.
And the best way to get people's attention is to know how someone's mind works. And there's a whole bunch of persuasive techniques that I learned in college at a lab called the Persuasive Technology Lab to get people's attention.
There's actually quite a bit of controversy surrounding how much of an impact Fogg has had on the impact of social media design, and I don't have an opinion on whether or not Fogg is a good guy or a bad guy in this story. But what is true is that a lot of powerful people from Silicon Valley have taken his course or been mentored by him at some point. One of these people is Mike Krieger, Freddy Krueger.
Mike Krieger, co-founder and CTO at Instagram.
If you spend any time on the internet, you've probably heard the term attention economy before. And just like in the world of capitalism, where people are racing to amass wealth irregardless of the cost, attention grabbers are acting with the same accord. Social platforms, they want you on their apps as long as possible, irregardless of the effects.
The reason it feels like it's sucking us in the way it is because of this race for attention. We know where this is going. Technology is not neutral. And it becomes this race to the bottom of the brainstem of who can go lower to get it.
Next, I want to tell you about something called Project Props. But before I do, I think it's important to make you aware of a theory called sociometer theory. Sociometer theory was first introduced in 1995 by Mark Leary.
I'm Mark Leary. I'm a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina, and I'm going to talk about the sociometer theory of self-esteem.
He wanted to understand why self-esteem seemed to be linked with the way people feel about us. Prior to Mark's theory, it was widely believed that self-esteem is an entirely personal experience. The way other people feel about you should have no effect on the way you perceive yourself. Or at least that was a widely held opinion on self-esteem prior to his research.
Now you might ask, why should we be designed this way? Why should self-esteem be so sensitive to what other people think of us? And I think it's a monitoring mechanism. We need to know, as we're interacting with other people, in a very direct and subjective way, how well we're doing. So when our self-esteem goes up, we have the sense that things are going well. And so we respond with confidence. It gives us the opportunity to take risks and take chances. But when things are going poorly socially and our self-esteem goes down, it's a warning. It alerts us to the fact that we need to be paying attention to how other people are viewing us and pay attention to the quality of our relationships.
The idea that we feel good if we're liked and bad if we're disliked may not sound groundbreaking, but since we evolved as a social species, being accepted by the group or the hierarchy is of great importance. Just imagine if you were rejected by a group of hunter-gatherers and you had to fend for yourself in early human existence. Good luck surviving in a one-on-one situation with a tiger.
Ow, son of a bitch!
In 2007, Leah Pearlman was one of Facebook's 3 product managers. Facebook had just exploded in growth to nearly 30 million users after opening to the public in the previous fall.
Zuckerberg registered the Facebook name, got people to back him, and developed the site. And the result, a massive connection with the public.
While I was at Facebook, I came up with an idea to solve a problem. Here was the problem. Let's say I posted this awesome photo. I might get 5 or 10 comments, and that would feel great. If I'd gotten a job promotion or changed my relationship status, I might get 50 comments, although most of them would say the same thing.
Facebook had a design that was new, chic, and had a minimalist approach. So the cluttered comments section felt like the antithesis to their approach.
If people didn't have something new or clever to say, they wouldn't say anything at all. They might come up to me in the hallway and tell me they like something that I'd shared. Okay, wait a minute. How much more validation might I be missing out on?
So Leah, bound and determined to not be like their competition, came up with an idea to clean the comment section up.
Now, one of the things that has to happen for us to do any behaviors, we have to have a trigger, something that says, do this now.
This is how the like button was born. At first, it was called the awesome button, which would have been way cooler, but whatever. The like button started out as a benign way to clean up the Facebook interface, and it has now become one of the most recognizable symbols in the world. And 1.13 trillion likes later, how does Leah feel about it?
1.13 trillion. Does anyone even know what that means? I looked it up on the internet, and apparently there are 1 trillion seconds in 30,000 years. That's 30,000 years of one person telling another person, I like that. Good job. Keep going.
This race for continued social approval ratings is what turns regular influencers into cult influencers. Enter my main case study for the birth of an accidental cult influencer, JP Sears.
Good evening, and welcome to We Lied to You News. This month, we're gay.
I started following JP shortly after a viral hit of his was sent to me by a vegan friend.
I've completely lost my appetite.
The video was titled, If Meat Eaters Acted Like Vegans.
It's not that vegetable eaters are bad people, it's just that they're terrible people.
My friend has a sense of humility, curiosity, and an open-minded way of looking at the world. He recognized some of the silliness of his lifestyle, and even though he believed in the ethics, he was still able to laugh at himself, which is what I initially saw in JP. A lovable, curious, self-aware weirdo who made videos about the spiritually woke, while also being a member of the same group. So I was pretty confused a few years ago when he started shifting his focus towards a more right or even at times alt-right leaning stance.
It is kind of weird how dangerous men love Trump and most dangerous women love Biden.
He changed his mind on God, guns, and even gay people.
The leftist propaganda about abortion got to me. I was wrong about guns. I used to be pretty anti-gun. I'm a little embarrassed to say that. The presence of evil and Satan that evil emanates from has never been more obvious.
You're obviously allowed to change your mind. And in fact, it's a sign of maturity when someone starts to challenge their long-held beliefs. So maybe I'm just biased because I tend to be socially liberal, but I'm not the only one who is confused, curious, and maybe a little worried about his extreme switch. And there are several comments, if you go to videos a few years ago, asking what happened to him. Some people say they miss the old him. And the most profound comment I saw on an old video said, "I wonder what the old JP would think if he met the new one." This comment came from a video where he talked about gay marriage and people who oppose it.
When it comes to gay marriage, my hunch is that a number of years from now, we'll look back and question, wow, how could we ever take away people's rights to marry? How could we discriminate against them because of their sexual preference?
To me. Allergies.
His transformation is honestly what inspired the topic for this video. I asked myself, how did one of my favorite creators become so partisan and closed-minded? So I started the research by going to his channel and filtering his videos by oldest. And you can see from looking at his first uploads to the platform that he started out as a life coach. And just like any other well-intended life coach or spiritual teacher on the internet, he made basic self-development style videos.
The journey of self-acceptance, but I would dare say the parts of you that feel unlovable need your love.
Then as he started to make more videos, he started to be more specific in his content. I imagine he learned at some point he needed to niche down to start gaining traction in the algorithm. And look, niching down and being specific about your message, it's great for branding and not inherently a bad thing. But in the last few years, his content started to become more cynical of one particular group of people.
At a time when LGBTQ has won the culture war, having defeated their enemies of truth, morality, and freedom, this is their first day being in charge of everything. I can't believe the hatred. He thinks guys like you and I aren't real doctors? What is wrong with people?
And just to be clear, I don't blindly trust the government. I just know the confusion I feel from the pandemic and other uncertainties in my life can make me want to gravitate towards simple solutions to these complex problems. But as we all know now, that's a huge problem.
But what you and I can do is pray. And by the way, this might sound weird, but when we look at the evil authoritarians, people I judge to be evil at least, the Klaus Schwabs, the George Soroses, Bill Gates, Biden, Trudeau. Without sugarcoating it, I think there's evil, tyrannical people in this world, controlled by Satan if I'm being honest, and I am, who want to keep the population of the world small so it's easier for them to control everybody, and they want to destroy the nuclear family so people grow up weaker and are therefore more controllable.
And he snatched a joint from my lips. Then he put his hand on my shoulder and he looked me in the eyes and he said, "That's what the communists and the Jews want you to do to keep you docile."
Circular logic takes over. And the most dangerous part of this is that it creates us and them.
So here's what I think happened. And the reason I didn't use Russell Brand and Jordan Peterson as case studies is because they aren't classified as solely influencers. They had careers long before the internet, or big public-facing careers. But as I previously mentioned, the BBC reported an uptick in the rise of cults during 2020.
When people are at vulnerable moments in their life, they're kind of open to hearing some solutions, right? And being vulnerable is not a mental illness. It's not something negative. It's something that we all experience.
People were scared and confused about the pandemic. The future seemed uncertain, and there was a lot of very complicated problems being presented to us. So when JP started making videos mocking vaccines, he went massively viral again. Then after some of the videos criticizing and making fun of vaccines went viral, you can slowly scroll through his old videos and you can watch the descent into the abyss of the alt-right. And everything I've talked about so far in this video is the recipe for how I believe JP and other cult influencers go from preaching neutrality and love to literally blowing their nose into a gay pride flag and insinuating that gay people are ruining the country.
We know for sure that both groups are serving their country very well by standing with their current thing that is destroying our country.
Everything I've been describing in this video is very nuanced and pretty crazy. But if you zoom out and you just generalize, I think it's pretty easy to see how someone goes from trying to be an influencer to becoming a cult influencer. People start out by posting content online. They get initial feedback just for posting content. Like the first few videos, people will say, "Oh my God, it's so crazy that you're making internet content. I've heard that's the way to go in the future. Good on you." But then that initial buzz wears off. You keep grinding away at videos, and after a while, you notice that the videos that work are specific ideas or opinions that might be slanted one way or the other. So you start becoming more pointed with your opinions. Then the engagement goes up. You start mistaking engagement for being right. You start attracting crowds from specific algorithms and corners of the internet to your videos. You now have a following that consists of a certain kind of person, or in the world of marketing, we'd call these people consumer avatars. So in 2020, when some people started to question the efficacy of the vaccines, they would go massively viral. But there was a problem with this new crowd. This new crowd was scared, conspiratorial, and they were looking for simple solutions to complex problems. But now your videos are getting pushed to a different crowd because the platform wants to maximize your reach if you're going to keep people on the platform longer.
So neutrality is in fact equivalent functionally to rejection, and that's when our self-esteem bottoms out.
But with this newfound fame, if you post a video that isn't sensationalized, your video doesn't perform as well. Then YouTube Studio tells you that your new video is a 10 out of 10. And for those of you who don't know, YouTube Studio is something you have access to if you upload videos. So if you get a 1 out of 10, meaning your upload is the best out of the last 10 videos you've uploaded, you get a bunch of balloon animations whenever you log in, and honestly, it's pretty addicting. So in your next video, you start saying, maybe Trump isn't that bad, and yeah, it's all plandemic. Now you're back to getting 1 out of 10 on your videos. You have a literal sociometer to look at every time you upload. You start feeling validated by your new community or perfect cult member prospects. They are angry, confused, lost, and maybe even a little scared. So you offer them a simple solution to all of their problems. Now your new fans, they keep consuming your content and buying your Chinese-made t-shirts that have patriotic sayings on them with a disclaimer on your website that says, printed in America, because, well, the pro-American merch is really made in China. But hey, engagement's going up, so why would you ever stop to question yourself? Plus, at this point, you've got bills to pay, and you've built an entire career around engagement and being divisive. Sponsors aren't gonna keep giving you money if your engagement drops, so you gotta keep hammering out the content that you know sells. Your fans, they're angry, they're confused, you're offering them answers and saying, it's not your problem, it's their problem. Simple solutions, circular logic kicks in. Now those fans are congregating in the comment section of your videos, arguing with Russian bots, but who cares? You've got blue light blockers to sell, and those supplements, they're not going to take themselves. Nuance is dead. The pursuit of more has you and everyone else on a hedonic treadmill chasing engagement. Chapter 4, deprogramming. So what are we to do with all of this information? How are we supposed to proceed and interact with friends and family members who have gone too far down the proverbial rabbit hole? Is there any hope? First, I think we must realize that reasonably intelligent people can get infected with a mimetic infection in the real world, and that algorithms are much more powerful than any cult recruiter could ever hope to be. Our friends, family members, neighbors, or even yourself, and myself too, we're not immune to being radicalized. It can happen to anyone who finds themselves with a compromised intellectual immune system.
We need to acknowledge that we are persuadable. Once you start understanding that your mind can be scheduled into having little thoughts or little blocks of time that you didn't choose, wouldn't we want to use that understanding and protect against the way that that happens? I think we need to see ourselves fundamentally in a new way. It's almost like a new period of human history, like the Enlightenment, but almost a kind of self-aware enlightenment.
Like I said in the beginning of the video, Christian and Diane, they found hope and they got themselves out.
Since I've left the movement, I've helped over 100 people disengage from extremist movements, from white supremacist groups.
I wasn't raised on racism. I learned it. Embrace what you don't understand. Make an effort to connect with the people that you fear the most.
I don't push them away, I draw them in closer. And I listen very closely for their potholes, and then I begin to fill them in.
It's our responsibility to go out there as human beings every day and to make good happen.
All right, that's it for this video. I just want to say sorry so much for the delay in uploads. If you've watched my videos and you've been a banana boy from the beginning, thank you so much for being here. If you don't know what a banana boy is, don't worry, but just leave a banana in the comments to let me know that you made it to the end. I've been taking the last few months off because I've been super busy with my business. I'm a freelance filmmaker, and I've got a massive documentary that I just filmed about an ultra runner, dude from my home state of Indiana. Literally, he's running around the perimeter of the United States. I'm super excited for that to come out. I'll let you guys know in the community tab when that drops. I have no idea when it's coming out. But going forward, I like pursuing or diving into these ideas that I'm curious about and then researching and sharing them with a script. Let me know what you thought. I'll see you again soon. Bye.